It was supposed to be the happiest day of her life. The day Elena Rossi finally said, "I do," to the man she thought she'd spend forever with. The sun was shining. The flowers were white and perfect. And inside the little countryside church, every seat was filled. Her mother wiped tears of joy. Her father smiled proudly. Even the children outside threw petals in the air, laughing as they ran past the marble steps. But behind all that joy, behind the laughter and music, something felt wrong. Music softens, tension begins to build. Elena couldn't explain it. Her heart beat too fast. Her hands trembled inside her white gloves. And when she looked at the empty front door of the church, a small voice inside whispered, "He's late." She had been waiting for 10 minutes, then 15, then 30. The guests shifted uncomfortably in their seats. The priest kept checking his watch. Her best friend, Rosa, came running in, breathless. "Don't worry," she whispered. "He's probably just nervous." But Elena's smile was fading. Her reflection stared back at her, a woman trying to hold herself together. Her fiancé, Luca Moretti, had promised her a lifetime of love. He had sworn he would never leave her alone again. And yet, here she was, alone. Guests began murmuring. One man said softly, "Maybe he got cold feet." Another whispered, "What a shame. Poor girl." Every word hit Elena like a knife. She stepped back, clutching her bouquet tighter, her breath shallow. Then, her phone buzzed. A single message appeared on the screen. Pause. The camera focuses on her trembling hands. "I'm sorry, Elena. I can't do this." The world around her stopped. The laughter, the bells, the music, all vanished. Her phone slipped from her hand and fell to the floor. She couldn't breathe. She couldn't move. All she could hear was the sound of her own heart breaking. People began to realize. Her father's face turned pale. Her mother tried to stand, her voice shaking. "Elena, honey." But Elena didn't hear her. She walked straight out of the church, her veil dragging on the ground, petals sticking to her shoes. The spring sunlight hit her eyes, bright and cruel. She stood there, in her wedding dress, the one she had dreamed of since she was a child, the one she had spent every last bit of her savings on. Now, it was nothing more than a white reminder of humiliation. Tears rolled down her cheeks, ruining her makeup. She tried to wipe them away, but more kept falling. She wanted to scream, to run, to disappear. But her legs refused to move. She looked down the road, hoping, praying. Maybe Luca's car would appear. Maybe this was all a mistake. But only silence answered. The parking lot was empty. Even the sky seemed too still. Minutes passed. Then more. The guests began to leave quietly, one by one. Her best friend tried to hold her, but Elena pulled away. She didn't want pity. She didn't want comfort. She wanted answers. Why would he do this? Why humiliate her like this, in front of everyone? She stared at the long white ribbon tied around her bouquet, her vision blurry with tears. She had built her whole future around him, the house they were going to buy, the children they dreamed of, the mornings they promised each other. Now, all of it was gone. Just like that. She didn't notice the car at first. A deep, low growl echoed from behind her, the sound of a powerful engine slowing to a stop. A black car, sleek, polished, and dangerous, pulled up beside the church steps. The tinted window rolled down slowly. Inside sat a man in a dark suit. His eyes, cold, sharp, commanding, met hers. She had seen him before. Not in person, but in newspapers. Whispered stories in cafes. The kind of man people only mentioned when they were afraid someone might hear. Adrian Valtieri, the most feared mafia boss in the city. Why was he here? What could he possibly want from her? A broken bride still wearing her wedding dress. Adrian didn't say a word at first. He just watched her, his jaw tight, eyes unreadable. Then, his voice cut through the silence like a blade. Low, firm. "Get in the car." Elena froze. Her heart leapt into her throat. She took a step back, shaking her head. I don't know you," she stammered. "Please, just leave me alone." But Adrian didn't look away. His tone didn't soften. "You have nowhere else to go." Her father called out weakly from the church door, "Elena, come back inside." But she didn't move. She couldn't. The man in the car looked at her with something strange in his eyes. Not pity, not desire, but recognition. Like he saw in her the same kind of pain he'd once known. For a long moment, time stood still. The sun burned hot on her skin. Her bouquet slipped from her hands. White petals scattered across the ground like tiny pieces of her broken heart. And in that silence, in that single unbearable breath of grief and confusion, Elena realized she had a choice. She could walk back into that empty church, or step into the unknown with the man everyone feared. Her tears glistened in the sunlight as she whispered to herself, why me?" Adrian leaned forward slightly, his gaze still locked on her. "Because, Elena, your life isn't over yet." Music swells, strings and piano blend in a slow, tense rhythm. Elena took one trembling step toward the car, then another. The driver opened the door. She looked back one last time, at the church, at the people still watching her, at the life she had lost in a single hour. Then, she took a deep breath and stepped inside. Car door closes. Engine roars. The vehicle drives away into the daylight, leaving the bouquet lying on the church steps. And just like that, the bride who was left behind disappeared with the man no one dared to question. She didn't know it yet, but the moment she entered that car, her life would never be the same again. The car door shut behind her with a heavy thud, a sound that felt like the closing of one life and the beginning of another. Elena sat still, her heart pounding in her chest. Her wedding dress filled the back seat, the silk crumpled, the veil half torn. Through the tinted glass, she could still see the church growing smaller until it vanished completely. She didn't know where they were going. She didn't even know why she had gotten in the car. All she knew was that the man sitting beside her, the man everyone feared, had said, "Come with me now." And she had obeyed. The silence inside the car was unbearable. She could feel the weight of his presence. Adrian Valtieri, the mafia boss, the man whose name made people whisper and lock their doors. He sat perfectly still, hands resting on his knees, his sharp gaze fixed ahead. His face was unreadable, calm but dangerous. Every movement, every breath, felt controlled. Elena tried to speak, but her voice came out small. "Why did you bring me here?" Adrian didn't answer. The driver's eyes flicked toward her in the mirror, then quickly away, as if even looking at her was dangerous. Minutes passed. The road wound through the countryside, sunlight glinting off the black hood of the car. She gripped her bouquet, now crushed and brown at the edges, like a lifeline. Finally, Adrian spoke. His voice was low, smooth, and unhurried. "You looked like you had nowhere to go." Elena turned toward him, confused, angry. "So you just decided to take me?" He looked at her briefly, his eyes dark, calm, but piercing. "You would have been standing there all night." Elena's lips trembled. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," he replied. The words hung in the air, simple, cold, and final. She turned her face toward the window, tears threatening again. The world outside blurred, green fields, winding roads, and flashes of sunlight. Each mile took her farther from the life she had known, deeper into something she didn't understand. After an hour, the car stopped in front of a grand villa surrounded by high stone walls. Iron gates opened silently, as if the house itself had been waiting. Elena's throat went dry. The place was enormous, beautiful, but cold. Marble columns, dark glass windows. Guards in suits stood at the entrance, silent as statues. Adrian stepped out first. Without looking back, he said, "You can come inside or go back." "Your choice." Elena hesitated. "Go back." Where? To the church? To her father's humiliation? To the whispers of pity? No. There was nothing left there. She swallowed hard and followed him. The villa smelled faintly of smoke and expensive wine. Paintings lined the hallways, scenes of old wars and silent eyes watching her every step. A maid appeared, bowing slightly. "Ma, Valtteri, her room is ready." Elena's head snapped up. "Room?" she whispered. "Wait, I'm staying here." Adrian turned to her, his expression unreadable. "For now." "For now," she repeated, disbelief cracking her voice. He nodded once, then walked away down the hall, his black shoes clicking softly on the marble. She wanted to chase after him, demand answers, but something in his presence made her stop. It wasn't just fear, it was power. The kind of power that didn't need to shout. The room was far too grand for her. Soft white sheets, crystal lamps, and a balcony overlooking endless gardens. It should have felt like a dream, but it felt like a trap. She sank onto the bed, the heavy skirt of her wedding dress pooling around her. Her reflection in the mirror looked like a ghost, pale, lost, and broken. "What am I doing here?" she whispered. No answer came, only silence. She removed her veil, setting it gently on the nightstand. It looked fragile, like the last piece of her old life. A knock startled her. When she opened the door, a tall man in a black suit stood there. His tone was polite, but firm. "Mr. Valtteri wishes to see you." In the study, Elena hesitated. Her heart raced as she followed him down dimly lit corridors. Each step echoed louder than the last. When the door opened, Adrian was standing near the window, bathed in golden evening light. He didn't turn around. "Do you want a drink?" he asked. She shook her head. "I want to go home." He turned then, slowly, and looked at her. "Home? Where is that?" "Elena, the man who left you can't protect you. Your family is humiliated, and the press will be hunting for the story by tomorrow." Her lips parted, but no sound came out. He stepped closer. "You think I'm the villain here, but I saved you." Elena's eyes filled with tears. "Saved me from what?" He stared at her for a long, unbearable moment. Then he said softly, almost too softly, "From a man who would have ruined you." Elena's world tilted again. "What are you talking about?" she whispered. Adrian didn't answer. He poured himself a drink, the sound of the liquid echoing through the still room. "You'll understand soon enough." She took a shaky step backward. "I don't believe you." He looked up sharply, his gaze slicing through her fear. "Then don't. But stay alive long enough to see the truth." Elena's breath hitched. "Alive? What does that mean?" Adrian turned away, dismissing her with a flick of his hand. "You'll stay here tonight. You'll be safe. That's all you need to know." His voice was final, the kind that ended arguments before they began. She sat by the window, staring out at the moonlight on the garden. She wanted to believe she was safe. But deep down, she felt she had traded one kind of danger for another. Her mind kept replaying his words, "from a man who would have ruined you." What did he mean? What secret was he hiding about Luca? And why? Why did a man like Adrian Valtteri even care what happened to her? She couldn't sleep. Every sound, a door closing, footsteps in the hall, made her heart race. At midnight, she heard voices outside her door. Two men, whispering. "Does he know?" "Not yet. But she's the key." That's what he said. Her eyes widened. "The key? To what?" The voices faded down the hall, leaving only silence and the pounding of her heart. She pressed her hand to her chest, whispering, "What have I gotten myself into?" Outside, the storm clouds gathered, and deep within the villa's walls, secrets she could not imagine were already moving against her. Elena didn't know it yet, but the man who took her in, the man she now feared and trusted in equal measure, was about to show her that sometimes the devil saves you for a reason. Elena woke to a silence that didn't feel safe. For the first time in years, she didn't know where she was or who she could trust. The night had been long. Shadows had whispered behind doors, and the man who had taken her in, Adrian Valtteri, still refused to tell her why. She sat on the edge of the bed, her wedding dress now folded in a corner, lifeless, like a memory she wanted to forget. She looked down at her bare hands. No ring, no future, just questions. Her thoughts wouldn't stop repeating the same words Adrian had said the night before. "I saved you from a man who would have ruined you." What did that mean? How could the man she was about to marry, Luca, have meant her harm? She left her room, following the faint sound of voices. The villa was huge, too big, too quiet. Every hallway seemed to stretch forever, lined with old paintings that seemed to watch her pass. She stopped outside a door, slightly open. Inside, she could hear Adrian's voice. Deep, controlled, cold. If he's seen again in my city, you know what to do. A chill crawled down her spine. She peeked through the crack. Adrian stood at his desk, speaking to a man in a gray suit. Papers were spread out before him, photographs, receipts, documents. Elena couldn't see much until Adrian turned one of the papers around. She froze. It was a photo of Luca. Her chest tightened. Why did Adrian have her ex-fiance's photo? She pushed the door open. The men stopped talking instantly. Adrian turned slowly, his expression calm, but his eyes sharp as glass. You should be resting. Elena's voice trembled. Why do you have his picture? What are you hiding from me? Adrian's jaw tensed. This isn't something you're ready to hear. Her anger broke through her fear. Don't treat me like a child. You said you saved me. From what, Adrian? Tell me. He stared at her for a long, silent moment. Then he dismissed the man in the gray suit with a nod. When the door shut, he poured a glass of water, handed it to her, and said quietly, "Sit down." She sat, trembling, staring at him. Adrian walked to the desk and opened a file. Inside, contracts, receipts, and bank statements. He laid them in front of her, one by one. Your fiancé owed my organization money. A lot of money. Elena blinked in disbelief. That's not possible. Luca was careful with money. Adrian's voice stayed steady. Careful? He smirked bitterly. He was gambling behind your back, betting on races, card games, anything. When he lost everything, he came to us. He promised he'd pay back double, and he used your family's name as collateral. Elena shook her head violently. No, he wouldn't. He loved me. Adrian leaned forward, his tone sharper. Did he? Or did he love what your father's business was worth? Her world blurred. She felt sick. The man she loved, the man she was ready to marry, had sold her name, her family, her peace, for money. Tears welled in her eyes. She whispered, barely able to speak, "You're lying." Adrian's expression didn't change. He handed her a paper, Luca's signature, clear as day. That's the truth beneath the vows you were about to take. Pause. The room feels colder. Her hands trembled as she stared at the signature. She could feel her chest closing in, the air too thick to breathe. All those promises, all those words of love. They were just a mask. She rose from her chair, her voice shaking with fury. You should have told me sooner. Adrian looked up, surprised. Told you? You wouldn't have believed me. You had no right to keep this from me, she cried. You made me think he left me because of me, because I wasn't enough. Her voice cracked on the last word. Adrian's tone softened for the first time. You were never the reason he left. Elena covered her face with her hands. Tears fell onto the papers scattered across the desk. Her future, her love, her trust, all reduced to ink and numbers. Adrian spoke quietly. He's still alive, and I'm going to find him. Her head lifted. Why? Because he owes me, Adrian said. And because you deserve to look him in the eyes when you learn everything. The sunset painted the villa in gold, but Elena felt no warmth. Her heart was broken, and now filled with something else. Anger. She remembered the vows she'd rehearsed, the promises she was ready to make. Every word of them had been built on a lie. And the man inside, the mafia boss, was the only one who had shown her the truth. Still, she couldn't understand his motives. Why help her? Why protect her? What did Adrian Valtieri really want from her? A soft knock came at her door again. It was Rosa, her best friend, who had somehow found her way into the villa. Elena. They're saying terrible things about Luca in town, she whispered. But it doesn't make sense. He wasn't that kind of manual. Elena turned, her eyes hollow. He was, Rosa, and I can prove it. She handed Rosa the papers. Rosa gasped. My God, Elena whispered. I don't know what's worse, losing him or realizing who he really was. She couldn't sleep. The truth had broken something inside her, but it had also awakened something fierce. She needed answers. More than that, she needed justice. As she passed the study, she noticed the door slightly open again. Adrian was there, standing by the window, talking on the phone. His voice was low but urgent. He's in hiding, somewhere near the docks. I want him alive, no mistakes. Her breath caught. He found Luca. But before she could move, Adrian said something that froze her blood. No, don't tell her yet. She's not ready. Her hand slipped against the doorframe, making a small sound. Adrian turned immediately, his eyes locking onto her. Elena, he said quietly, how much did you hear? She stepped inside, her face pale. You found him, didn't you? Adrian didn't answer. Where is he? She demanded. He studied her carefully, then said only, some truths are better faced in person. Elena's heart pounded. She didn't know if she wanted to see Luca again, but she had to. Not for love, not for closure, but for truth. She didn't notice Adrian watching her as she left the room, determination burning through her tears. He knew the next step would change everything for both of them. And as the villa lights flickered in the growing night, one thing became clear. The wedding might have been fake, but the war that followed it was very, very real. Night had swallowed the city whole. The moonlight shimmered faintly on the water as waves hit the edge of the dock, slow, steady, and haunting. Elena stood there, her coat fluttering in the cold wind, her heart thundering in her chest. She wasn't supposed to be here, but she couldn't wait anymore. Adrian had lied, again. He said she wasn't ready to see Luca. But how could she ever be ready to face the man who had shattered her life? Behind her, shadows moved, quiet, controlled. Adrian's men. They thought she didn't notice, but she did. She had been watched ever since the truth came out. That night, she escaped the villa with only one thought in her mind. If I don't face him now, I'll never be free. Adrian, you think this is just about love, Elena? He's dangerous now. He knows I'm coming for him. Elena. Then let me come with you. Adrian stern. No. Elena defiant. You said I deserved to look him in the eyes. So let me do it. Adrian's silence had told her everything. He did find Luca. And he didn't want her there. Not because it was dangerous, but because there was something he wasn't telling her. Now, standing at the dock, she could almost feel Luca's presence. That familiar tension in the air, the kind that makes your body remember pain before your mind does. She looked around. Empty warehouses, rusted cranes, a single flickering streetlight. And then, a faint voice behind her. You shouldn't have come alone. Elena spun around. Adrian stood in the shadows, his black coat blending into the night. His eyes glowed faintly beneath the lamplight, sharp, unreadable. Elena, you followed me. Adrian calm. I knew you would come. He walked closer, his boots echoing on the concrete. Adrian, do you have any idea what you're walking into? Elena angry. You mean the truth? I'm walking into that, Adrian. The truth you keep hiding from me. Pause. Wind blows softly. Her voice trembles. Elena, just tell me where he is. Adrian sighed deeply, his jaw tightening. Adrian, you're not going to like what you find. Before she could answer, a sound cut through the silence, a sharp metallic click. Lights flickered on across the dock. Dozens of men stepped out from the shadows, armed. They weren't Adrian's. Adrian's eyes darkened instantly. Get behind me. What is this? Elena whispered. A trap, Adrian muttered. The trap had been set the moment she left the villa. Luca knew she'd come looking for him, and he knew Adrian would follow. Luca voiced from the darkness. Still protecting her, Valtieri? You really never learn. Elena's blood ran cold. That voice, smooth, familiar, poisonous. She turned slowly. There he was. Luca, the man she had once loved, stepping out from the shadows in a gray coat. His smile cruel, his eyes colder than she remembered. Elena softly. Luca. Luca mocking. You came for me. How touching. Adrian, you made a mistake showing your face. Luca, no, you did, bringing her here. He smiled at Elena, the same smile he used to give before kissing her hand. But now, it felt like a knife. Luca, poor Elena, still believing someone will save you. He steps closer. Adrian pulls her slightly behind him. Adrian, say what you came to say. Luca shrugging. Fine, let's make this simple. I want her back. Elena froze. What? Luca, she's mine. She was my ticket out, and she still is. Adrian's eyes darkened like a storm. She doesn't belong to anyone. Luca chuckled. You think you're her savior? You're no better than me, Valtteri. You're just a man who likes broken things. Elena's voice trembled. You used me, Luca. You sold my family's name. You lied to me for years. He tilted his head. And yet, you came running when you heard my name. That's love, sweetheart, twisted and true. Adrian raised his hand slightly. His men stepped from the dark corners, guns drawn. Luca's men did the same. The dock turned into a standoff. Wind howled through the metal beams. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Adrian quietly, you set her up. You used her as bait. Luca grinning, and you walked right into it. Suddenly, a gunshot. Elena screamed. One of Adrian's men fell to the ground. Chaos erupted. Bullets flashed in the dark, sparks flying off the metal crates. Adrian grabbed Elena's arm. Oof! They ran behind a shipping container, crouching low as bullets whizzed past. Elena's hands were shaking. This is my fault, she gasped. No, Adrian growled. This is his. He pulled a small pistol from his coat and peered around the corner. Luca's laughter echoed through the gunfire. Luca yelling, you think you can protect her forever? She's already part of this world. Adrian's jaw clenched. He whispered, he's right about one thing. Once you're pulled into this life, it doesn't let go. Elena pressed her hands over her ears, trying to drown out the chaos. She remembered her wedding day, the sound of violins, laughter, and hope. Now, all she heard was violence. And the man who once promised her forever was now trying to destroy everything she had left. Elena whispers, he's not going to stop, is he? Adrian low. No, not until he's finished what he started. Adrian looked at her, his face lit by the faint orange glow of a burning car nearby. Stay close, no matter what happens. They moved quickly between crates, using the smoke as cover. But before they reached the car, a figure stepped out in front of them. Luca, gun in hand, smile on his lips. Luca, going somewhere? He pointed the gun at Adrian. You took everything from me, Valtteri. Now I'm taking her. Elena, stop it. This isn't love, it's madness. Luca, love? No, Elena. This is power. He cocks the gun. Adrian steps in front of her without hesitation. You'll have to go through me first. Luca smirked. Gladly. Bang! The gunshot echoed across the docks, loud and final. Elena froze, eyes wide, heart stopping. Smoke curled through the air between them. Someone fell. For a moment, she couldn't tell who it was. The world tilted. Then, Adrian staggered backward, clutching his shoulder. Adrian! She screamed, running to him. Luca laughed, stepping back toward the shadows. You should have stayed out of it, Elena. Now you'll both pay. Before she could reach for him, tires screeched nearby. A van's headlights flared, blinding her. Luca jumped in and disappeared into the night. Elena dropped beside Adrian, pressing her trembling hands over the wound. Don't move. Please don't move. Adrian winced, gripping her wrist. I'm fine, he muttered. It's just the shoulder. You're bleeding. He looked at her, really looked at her, eyes full of pain, but also something else. You shouldn't have come here alone. Tears blurred her vision. I couldn't lose you too. Sirens wailed faintly in the distance. Adrian's men finally caught up, surrounding them, guns still drawn. But Elena didn't look away from him. For the first time, she realized something terrifying. The man she feared was also the only one she trusted. Adrian tried to stand, but his knees gave out. Elena caught him, her voice trembling. We have to go, before Luca comes back. He nodded weakly. He won't stop. Not now. Elena's heart sank as she looked toward the empty road, where Luca had vanished. She whispered, then we'll make him. The night wind carried away her words, but Adrian heard them, and he smiled faintly, despite the pain. He didn't know it yet, but Elena's fear had turned into something far more dangerous. Resolve, and the trap Luca set had just unleashed a storm he wasn't ready for. The sun rose that morning like a warning. Its golden light washed over the villa's marble floors, touching the blood-stained bandage wrapped around Adrian's shoulder. It had been 3 days since the dock ambush. 3 days of silence. 3 days of waiting for Luca to strike again. Elena hadn't slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw him, that cruel smile, that gun, that look in his eyes when he said she'd always be his. But now, as sunlight streamed through the glass windows, something in her had changed. Fear had turned into fury. She wasn't the broken bride anymore. She was ready to end this. Adrian stood near the window, his tie loosened, his face pale from the wound. He had refused to rest. Even in pain, he looked like a man carved from fire and stone. Elena quietly, you should sit down. Adrian gruff, I've had worse. Elena, you were shot, Adrian. Adrian, and you ran straight into a war. We both made bad choices. He turned, locking eyes with her. The silence between them felt heavy, full of things neither had the courage to say. Then Adrian spoke, his voice low, calm, dangerous. Adrian, he's hiding in daylight now, in the old villa by the coast. Luca always liked irony. Elena, you found him? He nodded. Adrian, and I'm going to end this. Elena, no, we are. Adrian frowned. Adrian, Elena. Elena cutting in. He destroyed my life, my family, and my wedding. I won't hide behind you anymore. Her voice didn't tremble this time. It burned. For a long moment, Adrian just stared at her, like he was seeing her for the first time. Then, slowly, he nodded. Adrian softly, all right, but stay behind me, no matter what happens. Elena firmly, no promises. They drove through the winding coastal road in silence. The sun glared off the water, waves crashing against the cliffs below. It was beautiful, painfully beautiful, the kind of day that didn't deserve the blood that was about to be spilled. As the car stopped near the abandoned villa, Elena's heart pounded so hard she could feel it in her throat. The villa was once a place of elegance. Now it stood in ruin, its white walls cracked, its garden wild. And yet, somehow, it felt alive, as if it was waiting for them. Adrian stepped out first, gun holstered under his jacket. Elena followed, her hand brushing against the old stone gate, cold, rough, and trembling under her fingertips. Elena whispering, are you sure he's here? Adrian, he wants us to come. That's what he does, waits for the moment you think you're in control. They entered through the grand hallway. Sunlight spilled through broken windows, painting the dust in gold. Every footstep echoed like a threat. Then, a voice, calm, amused, filled the air. Luca off-screen. Finally, I was beginning to think you'd lost your nerve, Valtteri. Elena froze. He was here. Luca stepped out from the shadows at the top of the stairs, his gray coat perfectly pressed, his smile cold as ever. He looked almost untouched by what he'd done. Luca, and you brought her. Good. Elena, you knew I would. Luca smirking. You always were predictable when your heart got involved. Adrian raised his gun slowly. Adrian, this ends now. Luca, oh, it ended the day you fell for her. He snapped his fingers. Doors burst open. Luca's men poured in from every side, armed and ready. Elena gasped. Adrian immediately pulled her behind a marble pillar, bullets exploding around them. Adrian yelling, stay down. Elena, you said you had a plan. Adrian gritting his teeth. This was the plan. They moved together, quick, desperate, taking cover behind fallen furniture. Adrian fired back, hitting one, then another. But they were surrounded. Luca calling out, "You can't win, Adrian. You never could. You protect her, but for what? She's the reason you're bleeding." Elena's breath shook. "He's right," she whispered. "He's trying to break you." Adrian's voice was steady. "Then let him try." In that moment, Elena saw something shift inside him. Not anger, not vengeance, but purpose. He wasn't fighting to destroy Luca anymore. He was fighting to protect her. The shooting stopped suddenly. Silence. Luca mocking. "Out of bullets, Valtteri?" Adrian stepped forward slowly, empty gun still in hand. "Adrian." "Not quite." He tossed the gun aside, and the two men faced each other like beasts in daylight. Years of betrayal, blood, and loss between them. "Luca, you took everything from me." "Adrian, you destroyed yourself." Luca lunged. The fight was brutal. Fists, elbows, fury. They crashed through a table, glass shattering, sunlight burning across their faces. Elena shouted, her voice echoing in the empty hall. "Stop it! Both of you!" But they didn't hear her. They were too far gone. Luca grabbed a shard of glass, pressing it against Adrian's throat. Luca snarling, "She should have been mine. You were never worthy of her." Adrian winced, blood trickling down his neck. Then he looked at Elena. Adrian calmly, "Elena, end it." She froze. "Elena, what?" Adrian softly, eyes on Luca. "Take the gun. Behind the pillar." Luca laughed. "She doesn't have it in her. She never did." Elena's hand trembled as she reached behind the pillar. Her fingers brushed cold metal. The weight of the pistol felt heavier than anything she'd ever held. Elena whispering, "You ruined everything, Luca. You turned love into a weapon." Luca smiling, "And you loved me for it." Tears streamed down her face. Then she pulled the trigger. Bang! The echo lingered for a long time. Luca's body hit the marble floor, eyes wide in disbelief. For a moment, everything stood still, even the dust in the sunlight. Then, Adrian dropped to his knees beside her. Elena's hands shook violently. I didn't mean to." Adrian softly, "You had to." He took her hand, guiding it down gently. "It's over." But deep down, they both knew it wasn't. Because in their world, peace never lasted. Outside, the sun shone bright over the coast. Seagulls cried over the waves, and for the first time in months, Elena felt air fill her lungs again. They stood side by side, watching the police cars pull into the courtyard below. Luca's empire had crumbled, but in its place, something else began to rise. Elena quietly, "What happens now?" Adrian after a pause, "Now? We start over." Elena, "Together?" Adrian looked at her, a faint smile on his lips. "If you'll have me." She smiled through her tears. "You already had me. The day you said, 'Come with me now.'" They stood there, in the daylight that once burned like judgment, now warm, forgiving, and alive. But far behind them, in the broken villa's shadows, a faint red light blinked from a hidden camera. A quiet beep. A voice crackled through static, low, cold, and male. "The boss is gone, but the game isn't over." The screen fades to white. Her wedding dress may have been torn, her heart shattered, but from the ashes of betrayal, she had risen stronger. Love didn't save her. Courage did. And somewhere, in the distance, danger waited for its next sunrise. If you felt the fire, the heartbreak, and the courage in Elena's story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for the next chapter. Because sometimes, the end of one war is just the beginning of another.